What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the BREWtally Speaking Podcast, the official podcast of MetalNexus.net, where you can get all your show reviews, concert photos, interviews, and so much more. And with me, as always, is Daniel Terry. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Can't say the same for my kid that's upstairs, but, he's having a rough night. He needs to go to sleep.
Don't you have some Square Bob you can make him watch?
No, it doesn't really work like that when you're trying to put him to bed. That's kind of a way to power them back up.
Oh, okay.
It's like trying to turn something off by changing the batteries.
Fair enough. I obviously, that shows my lack of knowledge on kids since I don't have any.
You're probably better off.
Yes, I am. It would be irresponsible of me to just be drinking right now if I had a screaming child in the background.
What kind of yeah. The only reason I'm not drinking right now is because I have a cold or a sinus infection, so...
Fair enough. Your sinuses aside, the guest this episode is Amy Sciarretto. She is a publicist that we deal with her over at Atom Splitter PR. She has become basically someone I deal with every single day. A lot of the interviews that happen on this show are because of her, me and her emailing and her approving of my requests to get some of her clients, and we are forever thankful for that. This was done while we were at Sonic Temple Festival. This is the last episode of the Sonic Temple Festival stuff that we're going to put out. It was really great getting to sit down and talk to someone more behind the scenes. I think anybody who is fascinated by the behind the scenes in the music industry, I think you're going to find this chat pretty interesting. As far as, like Amy, you started off as a writer, worked for Roadrunner Records in the prime of Roadrunner Records. Started her own publicity firm, has bands like Killswitch Engage and All That Remains and just a ton of other people, great clients on her roster. And it was really great just to kind of pick her brain a little bit and kind of see how she got in the industry and what it's like, to be a woman in the music industry.
Yeah, I'd imagine a lot of the shit that she puts up with is pretty off the wall, if I just had to imagine.
I mean, it was funny, like my wife was, and you'll hear us talking at her and about her. She was literally sitting across from the two of us while we were doing this, but I see a lot of my wife and Amy in the fact that she puts up with a lot of shit, but doesn't deter her from getting her job done. It doesn't, she just busts her ass, and she is unapologetically who she is. And I think that's why I really like my interactions with her and dealing with her, because she's no bullshit. If you don't get it, sometimes she'll just be like, yeah, no, that band's not doing press, or, you're not going to be able to do an interview. And you're just like, okay. That's the thing, is like, we have built up a nice working relationship with people like Amy, people like Selena, who was Danny Wimmer Presents publicity team. I wanted to get her on and kind of do a Women of the Danny Wimmer Festival Presents kind of thing, but that didn't happen yet. But I think a thing that I enjoy having is a little bit of diversity, which is not a really, really, really old wooden ship, and is one of those things where that having women on the podcast, I think, is great. It offers a completely different perspective on whatever we end up talking about that obviously Dan and I are not able to talk about. And I think it also, especially in this case, we're giving people a glimpse into a completely different facet of the music industry that maybe someone might be really good for, but doesn't know that part exists and wants to work in the music industry, but hasn't found their footing yet.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, I think it's just a testament to it's a hard work story.
Oh my God, yeah.
Just literally the amount of shit that you have to listen to and go through, and and still be 100% on the team, and that's all stuff where I think I've said before that I just would be throwing fuck yous left and right and quit the industry, and so really just seeing just seeing that hard work and dedication, and really taking your job seriously and actually making it a job, whereas I think a lot of people, whenever we start off in this industry, are just hobbyists.
Oh yeah, most definitely. This is still a hobby for both you and I.
I mean, it's getting to feel like a job, which is great. It adds more but I think a lot of people, when you spend years doing a hobby, for some people, I don't think it translates well to payroll.
Right.
You see that definitely in bands that get signed to get popular and stuff. So to think of it as somebody that's part of the publicity team is, or in a lot of cases, is the entire publicity team. To see that, it's just, no, I mean, I got nothing but respect.
Yeah, I think it was really cool, and I know there was no video of this, but it's something that was a big takeaway for me too in being in the media area at Sonic Temple was seeing how many women actually were involved in almost every all the different media outlets, all the different photographers. Like, I would say, honestly, I know around me there was a group of women directly in front of me that were shooting for something. I couldn't see their little placard thing. For iHeartRadio, there was a dude and a woman. Like, almost everybody had at least one woman on their team doing something, whether it was the interviews, whether it was filming, whether it was photography, whatever it happened to be. And I thought it was really cool. And I think it, like I said, really speaks to the fact that, you know, everyone thinks of the music industry kind of as a very male-dominated thing, and I think it's mainly because of a lot of the artists themselves. But I think especially when you look at, you know, a lot of the rock and metal stuff, you're starting to see women getting into these roles of TMs and publicists and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's so fucking smart, because you know what? I'm going to be completely honest. Almost every dude I know, for the most part, is kind of lazy and not very organized. And so...
What?
Yeah, you know. And I can definitely say a lot of my organizational things that I've done for this podcast to kind of make it make sense and streamline it are things that my wife has taught me to do, because that's what she does at her job. And so it just kind of goes to show that, you know, I think women are just more organized and can put up with a lot more bullshit and won't be like Dan just said and be like, you know what, well then fuck you.
That's my problem, man. Like, I feel like I'm only ever going to make it so far in the industry before I start throwing fuck yous left and right.
Well, hopefully you get to a point where you've built up enough of a name, either that is your calling card, like where it's like... I'm
trying to make it my calling card, for sure.
Let's just say, what was it? Run, Ronnie, Run. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
Where he's just like, someone's like, oh my god, it's Ronnie from TV. And he's like, it'd be really cool if you flip me off. And he goes, oh, okay. And then he's like, well, here, fuck you. That's for next year. And hey, you're something, like, gave him another, like, shitty, like a diss or whatever. And he goes, and that's for the following year. And you're just like, okay.
Yeah, that would be, that would definitely be a lifelong dream.
Just to be able to walk up to people and people are like, oh man, tell me off. And you're like, all right, well, you have a shitty haircut. Fuck you.
Right, exactly.
Well, without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Amy Sciarretto of Adam Splitter PR, and we will talk to you all afterwards. So I have the pleasure of sitting across from Amy Sciarretto here at Sonic Temple Festival 2019, and I wanted to do a ladies of the Sonic Temple Festival and kind of get some of the behind-the-scenes people involved, because you know what? They're people too, and a lot of the shit that happens with us would not be fucking happening if it wasn't for them.
I'm glad you see that. I love it.
I deal with you almost on a daily basis. I feel like we're in a committed relationship in the publicity firm area aspect.
You know, if what we were doing was a relationship, I think we were probably married with a couple of kids.
No kids.
Well, the interviews would be the
interviews
kids.
are the kids. Okay.
The bands are the children.
I'm sure there's more parallels there than I would like to admit to.
It's adult babysitting. That's what publicity is.
Yeah, most definitely. What looking at something like this, like, how far in advance do you have to start prepping for this?
For a festival like this? Well, here's the thing, is that the Danny Wimmer Festivals, which is who produces these festivals, there's several of them, and they start either in late April and they go through the end of May. So every weekend there's a festival. There's Welcome to Rockville, there used to be Fort Rock, there's Epicenter, which used to be Carolina Rebellion, then there's Sonic Temple, which used to be Rock on the Range, then there's Rocklahoma, and then there's Open Air, which is also happening this weekend.
Right.
So there's a lot going on, there's a lot to manage, because there's a lot of media there, but the bands have a different performance time or a different schedule, or they're not doing press at this one, or they're doing a lot of press at this one. So it's a lot of, I have to plan in advance. Sometimes I have 10 bands on one festival, so I have to go to 10 different managers and get 10 different press windows across them. So I have to keep that organized, and I have to send out a blast to the media and let them know who is potentially available for interviews. Not everybody's available based on commitments, or they're just not available just because the window is there. It's not like a first come first serve situation. But it's like there's different layers and different levels, and not everybody has the same way of doing things. So it does take a lot of planning. Like usually I need 2 weeks, for each one of them, but I don't always get that.
And how much of all that planning that you do leading up to this just gets shot right in the ass?
All the time. Oh yeah, there are sometimes you can have a full plate of press and it gets canceled because a band is late, or there was an accident getting here and they're getting here late, or something happened with somebody's voice and they want to save their voice, so they cancel all their press. So yeah, it's like sometimes a lot of the work that you do doesn't even yield a result, like an interview result, but you still put all the effort into it. So I always say it's like you lead the horse to water, and if they drink, great, but sometimes life happens and the interview doesn't happen.
So something I find kind of interesting about what you do is thinking about, in the music industry, there's many facets to being in the music industry, whether you're a performer, the roles of being a tech, a tour manager, a sound engineer, press, publicity, management, so on and so forth. How did you end up getting into doing this?
Publicity?
Yeah.
Well, when I was in college, I used to write about music. I used to write for a bunch of local magazines. Back then, there was a lot of print publications in regional arts and entertainment magazines because I grew up right outside of Philly. So I used to write for a bunch of local papers, local magazines, just writing music reviews, doing interviews. And then I would find out, they'll give you tickets to go see the show. And that was all the stuff that I was doing. So all my friends in college were going out and getting drunk on Thursday and Fridays. I was going to shows and interviewing bands and doing what I loved. And then that turned into, I started writing for, more national publications, skateboarding magazines and stuff like that. And then when I got out of college, because I had ran my college radio station, I got a job at CMJ, which was a college radio. It was a trade publication, and I was editing and writing the metal section. And then I worked there for 2.5 years. I loved it because all I did was write about bands like Kitty and Stain and all those bands before they blew up. And I was seeing them all over Manhattan, and it was awesome. I loved it. It was probably my favorite job I've ever had because I just wrote about metal all day. And then I left there to work at Roadrunner for 12 to 13 years. I don't know the exact amount. It's around that, I always say. And I worked there. I worked in the press radio department at first, then I switched to the press department. And that was 2007, and I've been doing that ever since. I've been doing press since 2007.
So as someone who has been on my end of things,
yes,
doing press and so on and so
interviews,
forth,
yeah.
What is something that you were able to take from this side and apply it to what you do on your side now?
As a writer, yes, and an editor. Because when I was a writer and editor, I already had relationships with writers and editors because I wrote for them and I worked for them. So I already went into it having those relationships, but I also knew as a writer how I like to be pitched. So I tried to pitch outlets the way I knew what worked for me. A cool thing about somebody, I remember a publicist had pitched me on this band Scissor Fight, and they're like, the guys in the band are the commercial fishermen, and that's the most dangerous profession in America. And I was like, well, that'd be interesting to hear how the parallels are there, or what's the craziest story. Did anybody ever fall overboard in the ocean and what that's like? So I just knew how I liked to be pitched, so I tried to apply that and how I reach out to people. And I've had publicists not write back to me or write me an email and just write pass, not even thanks for your request, but pass. I always try to say thanks for your request, but we're not able to accommodate. I've had people that write pass, no, and I know what I didn't like and I thought was so I try not to apply that. But as I was saying to you earlier, I write really short emails because I deal with such volume, and I never want people to think I'm rude. I'm just I got to get through these emails, so sometimes I cut out small talk just for the sake of getting it done.
With the fact that you are, I'm not going to say one of the few, but the fact that you do put forth the effort into taking the time to acknowledge everything that you get that comes
across.
Yeah, I really
do. Even stuff
email.
Where I have to say no, and I know it's a flat no, I still think people deserve the right to get a response.
But the fact that you take the time to do that, is it kind of disheartening to still get shitty replies back to people thinking you're being rude or whatever?
Yeah, especially when people are just sometimes you have to be the bad cop, and it's part of the job, and I don't get offended by it, but sometimes I realize people don't realize that. I try not to get annoyed by it, but it does get annoying sometimes because it's I'm not just saying no just say no. I have, just like you have a boss and you have a boss, everybody has a boss, and I have a list of, criteria that for each band has their criteria for what they'll do for press. So,
out of curiosity, since you deal in predominantly metal and hard rock artists and stuff like that, and working at Roadrunner and so forth, probably at the pinnacle of Roadrunner really being the predominant metal label.
Oh yeah, to the 2000s, that was the best place in the world to work.
Did you... I often wonder, because, I'll put it this way. So, my wife and I went out to LA to go see 18 Visions.
Oh, yeah.
At the Roxy last year.
Oh, my goodness. How great was James Hart?
It was great. We got to do a quick little chat with him while I was out there.
He's awesome. He has the best hair.
Yes. Well, of course, he should. But it was one of those things where, we had never been to the Roxy. We'd never been out to LA. So we get in, and I don't even remember who was playing, but, if you've been to the Roxy, as soon as you walk in, you're right on the floor.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's, chugga breakdown part. People are karate, fighting air ninjas and shit. And at first, I was...
Crowd killing.
Not quite yet. But I was at the point where, at first I was like, oh, fuck, where's my wife? I gotta, make sure, she's okay. But then I had this, not an epiphany, but I was just she has been to probably as many shows for as long as I've been going to. I don't need to watch out for her because she can take care of herself.
She can probably kick ass. You know that you can kick some
it was
ass.
one of those things, like, I felt this sense of, like, community, even though we're kind of in a violent environment.
Yeah.
And was one of those things where I know metal and hardcore and all that is pretty inclusive, but it can also be very segregated by gender and so forth. And so I kind of had wondered, from your aspect of being on the business side of things, do you encounter a lot more of that, or even less than maybe being more of just an attendee or fan?
I used to get this question like a lot, and I would say in the past, like, there are times when, like, I'm backstage here to get a job done. I'm here to make sure the bands do their press and that the press talks to the bands and is respectful, and they're respectful to each other, and they take care of each other and do what they're supposed to do. And though I've, had times where I've been trying to get, I have the right proper credential to get backstage to do something, and I've had a security be like, no. And I'm like, I'm not here to fuck somebody. I'm not here to chase somebody. I'm here to get a job done. Like, when I got dropped off here today, the Lyft driver was awesome, but he had to go like 10 minutes out of his way to drop me off, and I said, dude, I'm here to work. Like, can I just get dropped off a little closer? I said to the security in the lot, I'm like, can I get, like, I'm here to work all day. It's a Saturday, and it's a great job, and I love it, but it's also an 18-hour Saturday where I'm working. And, like, to have to walk 10 minutes, and I'm going to sweat my ass off by the time I get there and possibly be late, which is more important than anything. Can I just get, like, can somebody, golf cart me over here? And it didn't happen. I walked. But whatever, usually that's when people be like, but, it's like, I don't encounter it as much as I used to about people thinking, like, you're a female. You know what I mean? Publicity is a predominantly female profession. But I don't see too much of that, no.
I love that,
Not anymore.
Like, I see a lot of people who are like, oh, there's not many women in the industry, and from what I see, it seems like that's completely opposite. It seems like a lot of starting to notice more female tour managers.
Oh, yeah.
More female.
In this moment has a female tour manager. I'm trying to think, I have a lot of female tour managers. Yeah, that's a job, it's an organized job, and it's like, most of them are males, but yeah, I've seen a lot more women.
I was telling my wife, because she was a quality assurance manager for a pharmaceutical company, and just switched positions, basically being project manager. And I was like, if you ever wanted to dip into this, I think you would do really fucking well being a publicist or a tour manager, where you just have to. You
got to be clinical almost about it. Like, I have to be hyper organized, or nothing will get done. I manage over 50 bands, so it's like, I say to people, my calendar, my Google Calendar, and my iCal is reminders of reminders to remind people, to remind them to get stuff done. It's just all constantly, and like, it's funny because, like, some of my bands, I'm tapped into their iCalendar, so I always know what August Burns Red is doing, if they're recording, if they're checking into a hotel. I see all that stuff, which is kind of funny. But I like that because I'm super organized that way. But I have to be hyper organized, or nothing will get done. So like I said, I'm always asking questions. I try to, like, tell me everything in an email, and I plug it in, boom, decks. And like I said, sometimes it doesn't always leave a lot of room for pleasantries, but I'm like, I'm trying to get to everybody.
Let's say you get shit done in a very prompt manner.
I try to be efficient, really.
Yeah. Something kind of been switching up a little bit. I know, and my wife, who is sitting across from us right now watching this, will attest, I'm never not working.
I know it. I live it. I like how her eyebrows went up.
How is it for you, having been in the industry for so long, and with technology now changing over the years from being like, oh, I have a laptop now, so I have something portable, to now it's literally on you with your phone at all times.
This is an electronic handcuff, and it says it in my signature.
Yep, and that's the other thing I find funny, yeah. So, I mean, with all of that kind of changing and now literally being tethered to your job 24/7 and getting emails 24/7 and all that.
Always, yeah.
How do you decompress from your day, and how do you find your time?
It's really hard. It's becoming a problem even. And I always tell people, I'm like, Mike and Mike on ESPN, Mike Golick and Mike Greenberg, before Mike Greenberg left the show, Mike Golick said something once that really resonated with me, because I always felt like I couldn't be like, oh my God, I'm so burnt out from my job, because I feel so blessed and lucky and privileged, and I do not take it for granted to work within this moment. Killswitch Engage, Slipknot, and Alice Cooper, and Vane, and August Burns Red, and I prevail, all the great bands that I work with, that I feel honored to be the person shepherding their media image and their careers. I could not be more blessed, but I also worked really hard to get there. However, I used to feel like I couldn't be like, oh my God, I'm exhausted today, and why can't I have 5 minutes off? I used to always think like, oh my God, like, because I have an awesome job that I love, I should never be able to just want a vacation. And Mike Greenberg said it. He goes, I sit on the air and I talk about sports all day long and I love my job, but that does not mean that I don't deserve a week off and that I can't desire a break, because everybody's human and you should be able to take time off. And that's how I had to like look at it that way, because I feel like, you know, when I was telling people, you know, my friends at home, like that I hang out with, you know, on the weekends outside of work, they're like, oh my God, like you get to go to this awesome festival all weekend. It's going to be awesome. And I'm like, yes, but it's also work. So it's also, like I told you, I'm 28 days without a day off. And I'm not trying to, you know, that's a lot. Most people get 2 days off a week. I haven't had that in a couple of weeks. And it's fine because I love what I do, but it's also like, I'm taking Friday off next week because I just need some time to just decompress. And while I love, you know, I would probably be doing this if I wasn't working, but when you work all weekend and you know, sometimes you need to recharge so that you're always at your best. And we shouldn't have to apologize for that. And for a long time, I feel like I couldn't even feel that way because I felt like, oh my God, I don't have it. Most of my friends come home from work and they go to happy hour because like, I hate my fucking job. And I never feel that way. But it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. And that's what I tell people. It's not really just a job because you can't really, you know, people think you're always plugged in. And, you know, there are business hours and there are business protocols. And some people, I don't think, realize that.
Not trying to dig too much personally into your
you're
life,
fine.
but how hard is it to, because I got engaged recently, right?
No, me, no.
Okay.
Almost, but,
I've seen a lot of engagements recently, so I'm trying to remember
okay.
who that
It's
is.
okay. It's okay.
Okay,
So
so
God,
that actually
there's a lot of places to go there. But,
that actually works to my point, actually. I know my wife and I have been together going on almost 10 years, been married going on just about 3 as of
Wow.
December this year.
I love her. She has the most expressive face. You're very funny.
So it's one of those
You don't
things.
even say anything, and I feel like I can read. Like
Oh, yeah.
a million things are being said right now. It's cute.
But I know for me, like, we got together in the beginning of internet dating, social, like, app dating and shit like that.
Like kettle, what's it called? Plenty of Fish and all that stuff.
Sure, Tinder and all that stuff.
Tinder. Oh, an app, not even a site.
No. We met at a bar. We met at the other thing.
Not on a dating. Oh,
Yeah, we
you
met
guys
at a bar like
like
you're supposed
how
to.
people should meet, where you can meet the real person and not the person they curate online, right?
And so we've been on plenty of our friends' Tinder dates, and it's always awkward as shit. But the thing that's interesting to me about that is, I know there seems to be the disconnect on one-on-one relationships and getting to know people because it's so needed right now, which is the world we live in now. But I wonder if I was doing this now when her and I met, this relationship probably wouldn't work because I'm trying to make this thing work.
Yeah, you're probably so dedicated and spending
Like
so
a
much
career,
time on
and
it. Right.
she's very much in the same thing. Like, we happen to meet each other at the right time, where neither of us were super career oriented or finding the thing that we're gonna do. You've been in this industry almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder. Yeah, makes me wonder.
It's like probably 21 years.
Is
actually,
it
but-
hard to have someone understand what it is you do, and not, because unfortunately, and we talk about this all the time, my wife and I, that is, talk about this all the time, where it's like, I have to do shit and there's things I'm trying to do, and it's not because I don't love you, but it's just, this is kind of the thing. And there's that honesty in that, but I wonder, I could see it being the opposite, where people find that as a huge turnoff, and it's like, you don't love me, or you don't want to be with me because it's career first, or these things first, and I'm going to be second fiddle. Do you find that that's what happens with
that it
being,
becomes difficult to have somebody that understands what your job is? Yeah, it does become that, because for so many years I was super career motivated. I was like, you know, I always put my career first, building a business, you know, all the time. I would, when I worked at Roadrunner and did radio, I always say on the weekends, you know, they would send me up and down the East Coast or up in the Midwest to cover, you know, things that the bands were doing, and cover meet and greets, and cover radio, and cover Ozfest and Mayhem and Warped Tour. And I loved doing it because I was like, oh, I was young, you know what I mean? I was in my 20s. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go out to the Midwest and cover all the Slipknot meet and greets for 3 days. Sure, I love it. And I did. I loved every minute of it. But then, you know, it also gave way to most of the people that I dated had to work in the music business on some level because A, they understood it, and B, that was who you're around all the time. Not always some of the best decisions, but that's how it happened, because it's really hard. Like, sometimes even hanging out with a friend, and I'll be like, hold on 1 second, I got to take this. And they're like, man, you don't get a break, do you? And I don't. Like, it's like somebody's always texting me about something or emailing, and it's fine. You know what I mean? I don't really set a lot of boundaries. That's on me. But, I've quoted this a couple times. You know, it's Oasis saying, don't put your hands in the life of a rock and roll band. And I've done that for much of my adult life. You know, they're like my children, where I'm like, if anybody says anything negative, I'm like, whoa, I got to get this corrected. I have a lot of artists where there's negative information that's not correct put out there, and I take it as a personal crusade to make sure that is corrected and fixed, and but it also does sometimes, if I'm out on a date or something and I have to take an email or a text, people are like, what? So that's something going on. But most people, most of the, I have dated people who I think really were into the fact that I had a sexy job where I was able to be where I'm telling Slipknot, come on guys, we gotta go. I got the clipboard and the headset where I'm like, guys, come on, you get over here, you go. All the stuff I've been doing these past couple days. I've had people who are love the music that are think that's the awesomest thing in the world too, and it is.
Kind of in wrapping up, a weird question I just thought of, because you would have been at Roadrunner when Slipknot, the identities weren't known.
No, they were, yeah, because I worked Stone Sour when...
Well, okay, all right. I was going to say, at least the faces hadn't been seen.
Well, Corey Taylor's had, yeah. Corey Taylor and Jim had been seen, and Joey, too. But Corey and Jim had been seen, yes, because of Stone Sour.
Well, I was just trying to... That
was 2002.
I was trying to think of how interesting of a job to keep the secrets...
Oh, yeah,
the identity, the
I have
faces.
So many awesome Slipknot stories that I don't tell. I should probably put them in a book. But there have been some pretty amazing experiences that I've had with them, just through ups and downs. When Paul Gray passed away, I went out to Iowa to just be the company's ambassador and just the company just represent Roadrunner at that time. And I was there as their friend and as part of their family to just support them with whatever they needed. And truly the most difficult professional 2 days of my entire life, because somebody I cared about died, and people I loved lost their brother, and that was immensely painful to watch. And seriously, I don't think I'll ever have a harder work day than that. But a lot of crazy things have happened with Killswitch and Slipknot. Just great, and Machine Head, great stories. Really great. Some of the best memories of my adult life were with things that happened at these kind of festivals or shows, or just But it's sometimes when you have to kind of things are going on, or you're doing crisis management PR, you sometimes have to, make sure that the artist is protected and the reputation is protected.
I know. I don't know. I think it's the black coffee guys.
Yeah, it looks like it.
They're super rambunctious during the
are.
press run, which is awesome. I think I just saw that, or I think Metal Nexus broke that they got signed recently.
Oh, right. Okay.
I
like this microphone.
Amazon deal.
I like it. I feel like I should be come on down.
Yes, I need the long dick mic.
Yeah, you need the long. Yeah, right.
The
one that
called,
the Bob Barker mic was down here, but it was long. It looks like a pointer.
Yeah. I feel like it's very chauvinistic.
Yeah, just go like that. Yeah.
And basically pointing your dick in someone's face.
Yes, that's what it looks like. The Bob Barker dick microphone.
What is the rest of 2019 hold for you?
Oh my gosh, 2019 work-wise, we have a lot of great records that are going to be coming out this year. Some really awesome releases that are planned. With some of our biggest bands. We're working with Skillet in this moment, Killswitch Engage. We just had I Prevail came out, so that's a big year for them. What's that? Yeah, that's fine. And then August Burns Red, who are amazing. They're going to be doing their anniversary tour that's coming up in the summer, which is super awesome. They're the greatest guys. I really, seriously, every time they send me an email or they ask me to do something, I'm like, I love them. It's just they just inspire it. Same thing with Killswitch. They're just great human beings. I work with Alice Cooper, and he's always on the road, and he is, at 70 years old, a true consummate professional who could teach every single band performing at the festival. He could teach them a thing or two about professionalism and just going the distance and being an originator, and he really is. He's an amazing artist. And I work with his other band, the Hollywood Vampires, with Johnny Depp. But a lot of great stuff we have coming. I work with Trivium. Hopefully they're working on some new music too.
Yep, just dropped a song yesterday.
So Matt's always, he's in dad mode right now. But.
And I already know who the answer to who you were looking forward to seeing this weekend was, because they just played.
Yes, Gojira, who are...
I guess they got burned, looked like?
Yes, something... Oh, my God.
It looked like the wind kicked in at the wrong
time
and blew it back.
And then I was out there just listening to Vacuity, and I was like, there's not a more perfect metal song. Every time I listen to that, cleanse. It's like a Hatebreed song.
Oh, yeah.
Everything that you feel negative about just gets... You play with... It's gets the red out. I would say it's like Visine. But I'm very excited to see. Now, the next couple of bands are going to crush, because it's going to be In This Moment, and then I got to go see Killswitch, and then I'm coming back to see a Lamb of God, and it's going to be completely crushing. I really need a Lamb of God show tonight.
I haven't seen him in a little bit.
Oh, my God. I haven't seen him in probably maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And I love Mark Morton. I also work with him on his solo record, and he is an amazing... Mark from Lamb of God.
No, as you were saying that, I was like, why have I been dealing with John Freeman on that?
Well, we partner on
Okay.
Spy Farm stuff.
That's fine.
But Mark Morton is an amazing human being, a sweetheart, a total Southern gentleman, and I adore him. And I love Lamb of God. I love Randy. I love everybody in that band, and I cannot wait for them to crush it tonight. And Killswitch, of course, they're going to crush it.
I had one question, and I totally threw it away.
I know, it happens.
It happens. Use it or lose it, right? Well, actually, here it is. I'm going to officially, on the record, apologize for your PR nightmare day of the Killswitch
It's all right.
thing. But you know what? I will
past
say,
that.
I know, but you know what? That helped start turning the corner for me. So it's like,
Well, I'm glad.
I'm really bummed that it came at the expense of a lot of problems for a lot of people. But on the flip side of that, I think I actually said...
It's like to put it in context. It was, sometimes when you don't go through the right channel, like, it can create, like, I need to know about things because I'm usually the last line of defense on them, and when it kind of gets done, like, around me, then it creates a hassle for me because you don't know that I could be working on a ton of other things, you know what I mean? Involving the band doing stuff. So it was a learning curve, and it didn't stop us from becoming friends and working together, right?
No, not at all. Thank you very much for taking the time. This
Yeah,
was a lot of
thanks
fun.
for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. So that was my conversation with Amy Sciarretto of Atom Splitter PR, and just an all-around awesome person. Dan couldn't be there, but I feel like your ears would have perked up around the whole working for Roadrunner in the early 2000s.
That definitely would have been really cool. I just want to see the look on our Roadrunner employees' face the first time the Glassjaw album dropped. I say the first time. The Glassjaw album didn't drop a second time. It just dropped that one time. But on Roadrunner anyway.
Right.
The next one was Warner Brothers. But yeah, no, dude, that would have been awesome. I mean, you had everybody back then. I mean, you had pretty much all the new metal bands that I cared about, and then, to watch it transition into metalcore, dude, that would have been like porn for me.
I think I can find that link on Pornhub somewhere. Dan's fantasy of working for Roadrunner from like 2002 to 2006, 7.
Yeah, check it out. Pornhub.com/brutally speaking. I don't know what's going to show up when you type that in, but give it a try.
I think it's more like brutally beating.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on that. I mean, let me look at my book. Let me look at my bookmarks here. Hold on.
Okay. But no, it was really cool, and something too that I've been hitting on a lot, and I don't know if people actually enjoy this question. In editing some of the episodes, I know it's something I've hit on a lot with a lot of people. But like asking Amy, like, does your job, because of how 24/7 it really is, has it affected your personal life, like as far as like a dating kind of thing? Because it's like, I mean, Dan, think about this. Like, you and I basically do podcasts quite a bit. I think between like you doing this and discography discussion, and then how much time I actually spend doing all the shit I do for this podcast, if we were to be dating or have just met our now wives, there's no fucking way they would stay with us.
God, no way in hell.
And so to think about that, like, of being like, okay, so like Amy right now is doing, has spent the last 2 days going around like New York and so forth, with the Killswitch guys doing press for their upcoming album and so forth. But I mean, it's like, can you imagine like just being like, okay, so she did, I think in the interview she said she was working 28 days straight and then was taking like a week off maybe, and then basically was traveling to go do her job. And it's like, can you imagine being a partner with someone like that, where it's like, okay, I won't see you for 28 days, I got a week with you, and then you're immediately leaving to go back to work? Yeah,
Dude, the burnout would be so strong. Like, I get burned out when we do like 2 episodes in one night. You know what I mean? Like, just imagine just spending days, doing your job like that. I couldn't do it. I mean, I have done it, but it's been for less fun things. I think that's the only saving grace, that if you go into it with the right mindset, you think of it as fun and you enjoy it, I think you might. It's kind of like a life hack. It's definitely one that I haven't figured out yet. So
yeah, I know. I'm definitely dealing with a little bit of fatigue from Sonic Temple. I guess the thing that no one tells you when you go prepare for these festival things, like there's the month or so the prep we did before it. There was the just blitzkrieg of a weekend where you're just being bombarded with everything of trying to go see bands, getting interviews, prepping for interviews, walking all over the fucking place, and then sleeping, and then getting up and doing it all again 3 days in a row, and then the travel, and then, right back into working, and then editing everything, and then it's just like, I think Sonic Temple Festival has honestly lasted almost 3 months for me.
Yeah, you've been at it for a while.
But it's a labor of love, and I think that's definitely the thing I think comes across in this interview with Amy, is that, anybody who does this and who wants to make a go of this, you understand the sacrifices that are going to have to be made in your personal life, and I think that it speaks to the character of the person that's willing to do that and understand that about themselves, but also the sacrifices they make for so many other people, whether it be, you know, from her to us, you know, getting interviews lined up and sacrificing part of her day to you know, align that, or, you know, dealing with the band stuff and all that kind of stuff. I just don't know that people actually realize how much a publicist does for so many people. So I don't know. It's pretty eye-opening thing, and I just wanted to say and take the time to say thanks again to Amy for being so open and honest about, you know, everything I asked, because she definitely didn't have to be.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Did a hell of a job.
Yeah, we're going to kind of keep this one to the point like the interview was. If you would like to keep up with Amy, well, you can follow Adam Splitter on Instagram at AdamSplitterPR. If you would like to follow her on Twitter, I don't know if she wants me to have you follow her on Twitter, but you can find her at LRGRRL666 on Twitter. I guess if you follow her, tell her that, you know, we sent you, but don't be a fucking creepy asshole.
Yeah, please don't.
And
if you are, don't mention us.
Yeah, please. Yeah, just say you're on behalf of yourself. And on top of that, if you would like to keep up with all things Metal Nexus, you can find them at metalnexus.net, Facebook at Metal Nexus, Instagram at metal.nexus, and Twitter at metal_nexus. And Dan will tell you where he can be found.
You can find me on Twitter at DiscussMetalDan. You can find me on Facebook under Daniel Terry. You can find my other podcast, Discography Discussion, at discussmetal.com. So, yeah, I'm available for you guys.
And if you would like to keep up with our podcast, you can find us simply enough at BrewSpeakPod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Check us out on YouTube. We've been posting some of the videos of the interviews we've been doing. And you can email us at brutallyspeaking@gmail.com. And if you'd like to be a show sponsor, email us and we can figure that out as well. And our show sponsor this episode is The Bean Bastard. Head over to thebeanbastard.com, get you some delicious coffee. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at The Bean Bastard. And for the Brutally Speaking podcast, I am John.
And I am Dan.
And we will talk to you all next time.